Janey Lee Grace. Welcome to the Natural Health and Sobriety Show on UK Health Radio. Hi, and welcome to the Natural Health and Sobriety Show. I'm Janey Lee Grace. And before we dig in to this week's special guest, I thought I'd share with you just a few events and things that are going on. Now, obviously, this will depend when you're listening to this recording to this show. But just in case you are going to be around July the 14th to the 17th, I'm so delighted that I'm going to be speaking at Russell Brand's Community Festival. It's in Hay-on-Wye. It sounds like such an amazing festival of spirituality, connection, awakening. There are some wonderful guests. Obviously, Russell is speaking. Also, Wim Hof. How very cool is that? Satish Kumar, Dr. Vandana Shiva, just to name a few. And of course, there is a big recover stage at this festival. Obviously, that's a very big part of Russell's life. And I know that the profits from the festival go to his Stay Free Foundation, which helps people in addiction and recovery. And so the whole recovery piece is very big with Russell and very much linked to the 12-step program. Now, of course, that's something that I don't get involved in my work. It's a very different approach. I work with people who are choosing to be alcohol free, who are not at rock bottom and not clinically dependent, but a little voice is telling them, you know what, this is not okay. Something isn't right. I'm waking up at 3 a.m. I'm drinking more than I want to. And I really want to support those people to realize that life is better without the booze. And as I've said many times on this show, when I was drinking, I stopped 5.5 years ago. But before I stopped, I had this idea that there were two types of drinkers only, that there were those who were at rock bottom, who did need alcohol services. And then there was literally everybody else, and everybody else was completely fine. And I thought it was really just me who was stuck in this kind of random place where I was very unhappy with my drinking, but I couldn't tell anyone. I couldn't possibly share what was going on with anyone because it was way too embarrassing and shameful. And actually, on the rare occasions that I did mention it to a GP or to a therapist, they didn't really know what to do with me because clearly I didn't fit that picture of needing AA and needing alcohol services. I didn't fit that picture at all. I was fully functioning. I was never had a DUI. I was holding, everything was seemingly fine. I know I wasn't fine. But, their answer would usually just be, oh, well, you seem fine. Just have an alcohol-free day. And that's what kept me stuck for so many years. It literally kept me stuck. That, along with the many articles that come flying into the press that tell us that a bit of alcohol is good for the heart. There was one just a couple of weeks ago in The Guardian telling us that people who drink moderately live longer, have better health than those who don't drink. I'm sorry, but it's total BS. What they really mean when you dig really deeply into that article is that they looked at the stress levels of a bunch of people, and some of the people who drank moderately, and it was very moderately, I would have managed to miss that piece of the article, seemingly coped with stress better. But we don't know what else was going on in their lives. And the reality is most people don't stop at one drink. If you are someone who doesn't have an off switch, you don't stop at one drink. So before very long, your stress levels are higher because, of course, alcohol will in fact exacerbate stress and anxiety, and its link with mental health just absolutely cannot be denied. So that's the work I do. So the fact that I have been invited to speak at this festival is absolutely brilliant because it means yet again, a bridge can be built. Why can we not have these conversations? Of course we can. It doesn't have to be AA or the highway, which is sometimes the phrase. We can absolutely encourage people who might just be vaguely sober curious. They might typically go nowhere near a recover stage, but they might be interested in just hearing how much better life can be without alcohol. So anyways, I'm really pleased that I'm going to be speaking at that event. And then in August the 15th, Tuesday, August the 15th, I have a great event in London in the evening, which is to celebrate almost 250 episodes of my Alcohol-Free Life podcast. How exciting is that? Can't believe that's how long I've been running that podcast. So there are still some tickets available for that. I've got special guests, William Porter, Laura Willoughby, and Claire Pooley, who were my very first podcast guests. So there's a lot of synchronicity there. It's really good. And on Saturday, August the 19th, it's Sober by the Sea, which is a very small event where we create a vision board. So if you want to know about any of those events, if you go to thesoberclub.com and click on events, you'll find all of the information there. Enjoy this interview. Well, one of the things that I absolutely love to do is look at the holistic picture when it comes to health. And I absolutely love chatting to my guest today, Sophia Kupse. And I've known Sophia for so long. Welcome, Sophia. It's so lovely that you could join us.
Thank you, Janey, for inviting me today. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's just great to chat to you. So I think we've spoken a couple of times in the past around different areas, but what I really love about your work is that you do this, really do this holistic picture, and now even more so because you're kind of bringing in the sustainability piece and on and on and on. So we've got lots to talk about. So before we do that, let's just go back in time. There might be people who are not aware of your work at all. They don't know anything about you. Can you just take us back, tell us a little bit about your story and maybe where you started with kind of some of the work that you do, and then we'll get into some of the more current stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I think my journey with pain started back in 1987 at the age of 23 when I had a head-on collision with a drink driver and I lost my ability to walk. Back then, I always believed that medical professionals were like gods and whatever they said went. And so I just did everything they told me to do. And when, unfortunately, medical intervention of pills and physiotherapy failed in my recovery, after 3 months, I had to look for an alternative solution because they gave me a 3% chance of recovery.
Wow.
I didn't want to really spend my life in a wheelchair because I just got married. I wanted to start a family. So I ended up reading 2 wonderful books that were launched back then in 87, Louise Hay's You Can Heal Your Life and Susan Jeffers' Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway.
Oh, I love that.
and they're brilliant books because they suddenly got me thinking about the power of the mind and how I could start to create my own recovery. And within 4 months, I was walking again. It wasn't that easy. It had a lot of setbacks, but I kept visualizing and being positive about my recovery. And within those few months, I started to walk with a stick. And then when the doctor didn't want to know how I had done it, because I was really excited back then to say, look what I used, that got me back. And he said, you're 1 in a million, go and have a nice life. We don't want to know how you did it.
Oh, no.
So I ended up leaving my job, studying for many years to an MSc level in advanced complementary medicine and opening my own clinics where I could start helping people become very empowered in taking control of their pain and to self-heal. And I've been doing that, as I said, for over 30 years. But then the clinics had to close because of the COVID pandemic in March 2020. So I thought, how can I reach my clients? And they were contacted me saying, how can we see you? So we started to work online, and I realized that the innovation that I developed, Mind Body Connection Map, which I worked with people as a tool to get them to connect how their thoughts and emotions had an effect on their physical well-being as well as their pain. They wanted access to it, so I developed an online program which evolved into 3 online programs, and then we went into sustainability and so on. So that's what got me to where I am today, well known for the innovation.
Yeah, absolutely. Just go back a little bit for us then. Just I know we've done an interview and we have talked about different approaches to pain, but I know there'll be people who listening who already their ears are pricked up. They thought, oh my goodness, can you help me with something? So would you mind just giving us, I don't know, just throw a few very generic tips or bits of info at us that might support anyone who's going through this right now, and obviously we can point to a couple of your books that would be good for them to get.
Yeah, I mean, whenever I get a client and I'm speaking to someone about their pain, the majority of people that come to me is because their pain is unexplained and unexpected. It doesn't relate to any medical condition, illness or disease or a physical trauma. So people really want to understand why they've got that pain, and it's in the understanding is the healing. So if people listening out there can start relating what their pain links to, and as I said, for the majority, they don't know where it starts from. They always think of a physical cause. And if I asked you why you had a back pain or a neck pain, most of people would say it's because I sat too long at the computer or I did too much in the garden. They always go to something physical because that's what the brain's trained to go. When you're a child, you learn that pain comes from a fall. You fall, you graze your knee, and it hurts. You get poorly as a child, it hurts. So now the brain's learned a story that pain links to physical cause or action. But there's two routes to pain. And the second route is our emotions and our thoughts. And the body's a timeline. It starts to download your thoughts, especially negative and stressful thoughts, things that are on your mind that you can't change. And those thoughts use the muscle memory system to download into your body, into your muscle groups, and start making chemical changes, releasing toxins like adrenaline and cortisol. If you're not using them quickly and burning them up, they start to store in the body. Cortisol holds on to body fat. So if you're struggling to lose weight, that could be a reason. And adrenaline converts to lactic acid, so it starts to build in your big muscle groups in the body, and that's where pain starts to build over weeks and months, and suddenly you get this unexpected pain. So how can you help yourself quickly? Are you drinking enough water? Because as soon as you start to become dehydrated, the fascia, which is the layer that wraps around your muscles to make it very flexible, starts to dehydrate and then becomes very stiff, and that can lead to unexpected and unexplained pain in the body. So things like move more. A lot of people have quite a sedentary life, so moving's a good thing. And just simply by walking, you don't have to do anything strenuous. But the body needs that movement because it's a machine. The more you move it, the more it improves. And the biggest thing is when you get unexplained pain like lower back pain, and it sometimes can turn into sciatica, to reduce that inflammation quickly, use an ice pack. That's the quickest tip it works faster than a paracetamol. And you'll find that, and because a lot of people tend to go for heat.
For heat, yeah. Well, this is what you hear all the while, isn't it? Use one of those heat things that you stick in the microwave. But I've heard you say before that actually, if an area is inflamed, it doesn't want more heat.
No, because inflammation is like a fire. So if you think, if you've got a fire, how do you put it out? You're putting cold on it. You're not throwing another log on the fire to increase that. And the body's just going to react more, and you're going to feel more pain and discomfort. I think people are always looking for the soothing side of it. There's a part of us that connects to the subconscious brain, with where our inner child lives, and that soothing comfort, warm blanket always sounds nice, but it's probably not doing the muscles any good or your pain any good. So it's important to get that inflammation reduced quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I had some dental work done, I got some ice, one of those sort of ice packs, and I really felt as it made a difference. You can kind of hold them against your face. It was definitely made a difference. You mentioned the fascia. Tell us a bit more about that, because it's only in fairly recent years that I've realized what this is, and I was lucky enough to have a treatment of myofascial release, but there'll be lots of people who don't even know what that word fascia means. Understandably, it's not sort of common knowledge. Can you just sort of explain what it is for us?
Yeah, fascia is it's like it's transparent film that wraps around every muscle group in the body to make it very flexible, strong, and the muscle from the brain to the big toe, it wraps around every single muscle group. And what the fascia, it's very important if we don't drink enough water, which most of people will admit they don't. Um, the major organs primarily get the water, and then the fascia, like your skin, nails, and hair, is one of the last places that will become hydrated. And so when this fascia becomes dehydrated because of lack of water, it becomes quite sticky. Does this, I call it the cling film that wraps around it. And if you've ever cooked chicken and you've taken the skin off a chicken breast, and you're peeling it back, you'll see that transparent film around the muscle of that chicken breast, because every human and animal has fascia. It's really important, as I said, for mobility and flexibility in the muscle, but it's dependent on hydration to keep it, plump and mobile. And if we're not drinking enough, which NHS guidelines now say it's 2.5 litres, we should be drinking per day. And for some people, visually, if you see 2.5 litres, it is quite overwhelming. And so I break it down. I usually have, you can have 500ml bottles, or you can just have a nice water bottle. You can constantly just keep refilling, but as long as you visually see that's your target, then you can start to decrease toxins in the body and get that fascia staying hydrated. I mean, the bowel needs it, every major organ needs that water, and also fascia needs movement as well. So it's not just hydration. But if it gets really sticky and it starts to get solid like a glue, it just treats the muscle it keeps it immobile. It doesn't move at all. And that means it starts to attract more lactic acid like a magnet, and then gets really hard. And then you've got problems with inflammation and pain triggered.
Right.
UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good. UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good.
So what's your view of various sort of treatments that people can have? I mean, I know that you, as the muscle whisperer, absolutely, you used to do some incredible treatments, which I was very grateful for. What is your view now of various treatments that people can have? We typically hear of people going for osteopathy, of course, or going to see a chiropractor, or myofascial release, as I've mentioned. What would be your tips for someone who wants to really support their, if they struggle with back pain or whatever it might be?
I think the most important thing, Janey, what I've learned is that keeping on top of the well-being is really important, and it's part of self-care. And then when we care about ourselves, we know that, it's self-love, self-care. But going for treatments, acupuncture, massage therapy, are nice things to have and to treat the body. But the biggest catalyst that creates that pain and the problems is it's that inner self-talk, what's on your mind every single day. We know in research that we have about 60,000 thoughts per day, and 80% of those thoughts are cut and paste from the day before.
Yeah, exactly. Same thoughts. Yeah.
Going round. And as I said, when you're thinking good thoughts, great, you're releasing the tonic the body wants, which is the good endorphins that flood our systems and naturally support our healing system. However, 60% of the time, a lot of people are going around with the same worries and problems and stresses in their head. And therefore, triggering that cortisol and that adrenaline that is building up that toxicity we don't want in the body. And so I would say the first thing is having all the physical treatments is great, but sometimes I question whether they're just sticking plasters to help us on our way until the next issue or the next pain attack happens. I'm into prevention medicine, and health. So it's like going to the dentist. I go every 3 months for a hygiene clean because I'm preventing gum disease. And I can't stand it if I have toothache or anything like that. So I do that as a prevention. People book their hair appointments regularly, and I think it's making sure that you check in on yourself daily about what your thoughts, what you're thinking about, what's impacting your life that is starting to build internally problems, pain problems, pain points. Yeah. So managing those negative thought patterns is key because, as I said, thoughts become things and they download into the body through muscle memory system. And muscle memory is important to give you balance, movement, and therefore the millions of sensory nerves connecting to every muscle group in the body. And it's like a network that thought travels down on, and then it starts to build in, as I said, different muscle groups and areas of the back and the body until we start to feel pain. So what can people do is start to be very mindful of your daily thinking, because I think a lot of people out there know that how they think affects how they feel, and therefore we then get into certain patterns, don't we, of if you're feeling low mood and tired, or we tend to want to pick me up, so we'll reach out for something
the alcohol.
Like, the alcohol, the sugar, and then these are all inflammatory foods that take away from the body, as we know, rather than replenish the body. So it's really being mindful of how your thoughts become things. And like you say, we all have that natural built-in healing ability. But I think now with medicine over the last 50, 60 years, we've forgotten how to self-heal, and we tend to become very reliant on medicines and the medical world. And as they say, when the mind suffers, the body cries out. Everything starts from the mind. It is the computer that's driving that body. So we need to be extremely mindful of how we think. And I know I don't mean to say always thinking about the positive, but it is true. When we think more positive, we feel better within ourselves. But there's a lot in this day and age now, today's world, not to feel positive about, which gives the opposite effect. So it's about counteracting that and training ourselves to always practice daily gratitude, something really simple, but I think a lot of people forget about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it is those simple tips, isn't it? Because, you're right. A lot of people are aware that, okay, my thoughts, my negativity or whatever is affecting my well-being, but then they kind of feel stuck. Well, what can I do about it? I don't want to think these terrible thoughts, but then they come flooding back. So I guess, it really is the simple tips to start with. Like, we can just bring in the curiosity, how might it feel if I was someone who cared about myself, or, and as you say, let's start with gratitude, because that really is the key, I think. Whatever is going on, however bad, in inverted commas, something is, there's always something to be grateful for. And when you just focus on that one small thing, that can really make a massive difference. I think that is a game changer, really, for anyone listening who's thinking, well, it's all very well, but my sort of natural resting position is one of resorting to feeling very anxious and stressed. I can't just suddenly turn on this kind of magic positivity button. So therefore, perhaps for them, really, it's just a case of, okay, start by writing. I call it blessings. Things that you can look at and go, well, do you know what? I feel blessed for that at least. Would you agree?
Absolutely. I mean, if we go back to my original story about what brought me into the world of holistic healing and health, It was all when I was 23. If I was stuck in the thought patterns of when I couldn't walk. What if I don't fully recover? What if I can't drive anymore? What if I can't start a family? And your head is constantly telling those negative stories. And therefore, the whole body shuts down because it's doing what I've told it to do. It's because I've given it the what if story. So I've gone into a fear-based mindset. So what I did is I started to tell myself a new story. I replaced my conversation with what if I can walk, I can drive, I can dance, I can exercise, I can do whatever I want to do. It's got a positive twist on it. I wasn't walking then, but I started to train my brain to absorb the I can and what am I grateful for, which starts to build new neurons, little branches of information in the brain. And now when I'm thinking about a certain challenge in my life, my brain will offer me two solutions. It'll either go for the negative, which is the go-to response, isn't it? Or it'll start offering me the other solution because I'm training it. So the gratitude is like the foundation to support the mindset, and then obviously being more mindful of what's going on around you and how you're responding to things in your life, especially the things that you're powerless to change. We listen to the news every day, and there's 99% bad things going on and 1% good news at the end, which is really challenging a lot of people, because people as humans want to go out there and help change the world, improve things, and you can't really. You just you're sort of helpless to do anything, and that's not the way we want to be. So we've got to optimize, as I said, ourselves, our minds, to be little powerhouses to deliver an optimum health and well-being within ourselves. And not read or listen to, as I said, not being ignorant, but being able to listen to the news, and unfortunately having to sometimes accept the things you can't change in life.
Yeah. It's about kind of making sure that we keep our own vibrations high, really. And that sounds terribly woo-woo, but actually I think it's what we have to do. Just try and focus on just, as you said, what if everything is okay? I think that was that you mentioned feel the fear and do it anyway. And I love that book because, what that book sort of talks about is, actually we've all got so used to expecting everything just to be safe. But what if everything is okay? And it's a different spin on it, isn't it, really?
Absolutely. I mean, and like I say, Susan Jeffers' inspiration got me out there thinking you've got to tell yourself a different story, because if you keep on saying the same story, you're always going to get the same thing. Nothing's going to change. You have the power to change what's going on in your world right now by just looking at it from a different perspective. And I always find that, do I like looking out the window and seeing a black and white picture or Technicolor? And as a child, I always like to see Technicolor, a colourful world. And accepting that, it's hard to be human. So we have to be more kinder to self. We have to, as a self, learn to love ourselves more. And that comes through better self-care. And a lot of people still struggle with that self-care, like the simple things in life, putting boundaries to protect the time you spend on yourself. To help reduce any negative feelings of frustration, helping everybody else, and then being last in the queue to help yourself. Yeah,
well, that's, as you can imagine, something that I come across all the time, in the work that I do, people who are kind of people pleasers, and they'll do just everything it takes really to make sure that other people around them are okay. And sometimes if you even ask women in particular, I often do my sort of Sober by the Sea events, and I might ask a small group of women, what is it that you really want for you? And sometimes that, they can end up in tears just thinking about that one small question, because they haven't actually considered what they want for themselves in as long as they can remember. because they're so locked into the minutiae of life or caring for others that the question, what do you want for you, is just one that they've not even contemplated. And so often they'll say, actually, I don't know. I've got no idea. Which, you know, it's a thing, isn't it, really? We do need to take a little more care of ourselves, and know what we'd like, or know how we'd like to feel. So, you know, we can start there. But sorry, carry on.
I was just saying that I think we also overcomplicate things, and we make it really complex when we need really to strip it back and make it really simple. The solutions that we want to see should be, you know, non-addictive and simple. That's the way it is. You know, like I say, coming out of our addictive patterns, as you said, that we have with sticking plaster solutions like alcohol and sugar and things that don't work for us, that are very temporary. And we should just pare it back to going back to the simple steps, which is starting with yourself. And then when you heal yourself, you feel good about yourself, then you can help everybody else.
Yeah,
better.
Absolutely.
UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good. UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good.
So I love these ideas and concepts, but, you know, what I've heard you say is that now you're working with, or at least hoping to get some of the stuff you do recognized within the NHS. So how is that gonna come about? Because, you know, what we're talking about here is, you know, people taking responsibility for their own health and well-being, rather than what tends to be the NHS approach of sort of wait till the horse is bolted and then let's see if we can kind of throw a drug at it. I don't know if you think that's fair, but you know, how are we going to get some of your ideas into some you know, mainstream healthcare?
Well, we know that climate change poses a major threat to our health as well as our planet. And the NHS England has now made a commitment in 2022 through the Health and Care Act that it's going to be the first health system to embed net zero into its legislation, which it has done, because 25% of emissions within the NHS is down to medicines. And therefore,
what do you mean by that then? What you mean? Tell me a bit more about what you mean by emissions with medicines.
Well, gas emissions. Well, the medicines, pharma drugs that are inhalers, creams that we use, the pills that we use to get better. They're being wasted in the sense of overprescribed, or people cashing in the prescriptions, having side effects to certain medications or opioids that might be prescribed for pain, for instance, and then they're just throwing them away. If they should be going back to the pharmacist to be recycled, but it goes into landfill, then it breaks down, it goes into the atmosphere, and then suddenly our environment is starting to be destroyed. Gases are released, and guess what? The quality of our air is reduced, and we're breathing it in. So,
did you see that recent story about all that mountain of PPE? I mean,
yes,
unbelievable, literally unbelievable. I that really shocked me. I had to take a sharp intake of breath when I saw that. Oh my God, how unbelievably wasteful and damaging, and what a total waste of money. And I mean, don't get me started, but seriously.
Yeah, and this is the thing about wasting money. I recently did, I'm doing some now projects with a certain big primary care networks for the NHS. And I found that the results I've been getting, because they're looking for innovative new ways to empower patients now to be more proactive, to take less medication. I mean, can I just get it right that if you're taking medication for an illness, a disease, that you currently have and it's being treated, that's fine. You're taking that medication to improve your quality of life, and it's necessary. But what I'm talking about is the pain medication that is needed when people have no known cause. They've had all the x-rays, the scans. They're coming up with just wear and tear. There's no results that they can pin it on. So we'll just give you this to ease the pain. It's that sort of build-up that I'm talking about that is becoming the problem, and we're starting to take them and they're not working. The medication's not working. Certain antibiotics are no longer working for us. So what do you do now? So the NHS is really on a mission to empower patients to start looking and working with health coaches. The government have given primary care networks money to fund for health and wellbeing coaches to be placed in surgeries. So if you don't get an appointment with the doctor, you can get an appointment with the health coach and start talking through, lifestyle changes.
Well, wow, that's amazing. I had no idea. That's fantastic if that's really happening. Wow.
It is happening. With the government funding's there, but it looks like it's the timeline to roll it out that's interesting, because down south the primary care networks seem to be rolling out and incorporating the health and wellbeing coaches quicker than up north. Not sure why, but as that's happening, people are now being given like an alternative to help treat their pain or illness. So I come in where I've done a few projects working with PCNs and working with patients actually online, doing with my mapping system and my Erase Pain program. And the results I've got has been phenomenal, because I've helped people come off or reduce their prescribed medication, especially opioids, where there's a global problem now with opioid addiction. And the trouble is, people take it for a week or two, and unfortunately it's easy to get hooked. We can see so many great celebrities, like Prince and Whitney Houston and the other ones, the superstars that have gone, very young, died young, because of just not knowing the parameters of how much pain medication can they take, and thinking it was safe to do so. And like it isn't. So now the NHS is really, really bringing in more innovative processes to work with people and patients to get off the medication or reduce it, and become very empowered and feel supported and confident to get on top of the pain. As I said, I've had a few successful projects gone on with them where I've treated many people, and it's phenomenal. People really do embrace the change, because it's not easy to get hold of your GP nowadays. Since the pandemic, it's become sometimes impossible, depending on where you live, to speak to your doctor or a health person. You're on the phone for 45 minutes trying to get an appointment. So people need to feel that they can take control of whatever's going on in their health quickly and effectively, and using, as I said, more sustainable health, greener solutions is big. It's retraining your mind and body to go back to what it naturally should be doing, self-healing, which the body has the ability to do it. It's amazing.
Absolutely. I love this approach, and I'm almost certain I probably mentioned it when I spoke to you last time, but many years ago I was working with someone who had done mindfulness training. She was a nurse, and she was working with some patients, and there was some issue with getting medication for a patient that was in pain, and she offered some mindfulness techniques instead, and was able to help bring the pain down very quickly for this patient. And then she actually sort of timed what she was doing the second time. So she actually discovered that it took less time to work with a patient using some mindfulness techniques than it did to actually check their notes, go to the cupboard, get the medication, make sure the weight was right, lay it all out, and for the medication to kick in. It was actually quicker. But this was a good few years ago. And, I think at that time, the NHS were not having any of it. But let's hope that's changing because, as you say, this makes absolute sense. This is the holistic approach. And why would we not want to take back some responsibility and allow our bodies to self-heal? It makes absolute sense, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And the NHS are on board with it. But I think, again, it's like anything. Things like new processes like this is going to take time.
Yeah.
But I think if everyone steps up, becomes more mindful of how they can embrace these new solutions, then it's quicker, like you said. That's a classic case I've done before. I've heard of that before about using mindfulness to take control of pain. Look at EFT therapy, the tapping. I mean, it's just amazing. And you can't believe how fast it works. And I say to people, when you get pain, drink more water, sit down, put an ice pack on for 10 minutes. It's going to be quicker than taking a paracetamol. Yeah. And it usually is 99% of the time. Yeah. So it's, but people forget because they've not trained the mind to go for those processes, solutions. They're going to the alternate, which is always, I need something from the GP. And unfortunately, the NHS is really struggling at the moment, and I can't see it getting any better in the near future because of funding and everything else that's going on.
So it really is this sort of mindset change that's needed throughout, isn't it? Across the board, really. So this is fantastic that you're doing this. It really is. So tell us a bit more about your website then, or how people can find out more about what you do and potentially connect with you or work with you.
Yeah, I definitely support people accessing more natural, greener solutions, and that's all about a sustainable alternative to helping people in their recovery. And I think people now are wanting that, are crying out for those sort of options. So, and at the same time, being kind to themselves as well as the planet. So it's obviously leaving their carbon footprint. So their help, it's all helping everyone out. So they can contact me through my website, mbhtraining.com, where I produced 3 online programs that people can access, download, and they can start to work on their changing. It's not just mindset, it's they get access to my innovation, which is evidence-based. It's supported by the NHS, and the mind-body connection map is the key to supporting that mindful change, because it connects your thoughts and emotions to where your pain sits in your body. That links to people, places and events in your life, past or present. And when you can pinpoint which area of pain in your muscle group, whether it's your neck, mid, lower back or wherever, it linked to that person or event as shown on the map, then it happens within seconds. People start to make that mental change, and the pain starts to decrease. It just like switches it off. So it's they can access that on MBH Training, as I said. And it has been, I've got loads of case studies and testimonials on there that people can check out to see how quick and effective it is in helping people reduce and avoid the need for prescribed medication, which, as I said, is the leading contributor to increasing gas emissions, as the NHS shows, by 25%. So we need to decrease those numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic. I love it, Sophia. Thank you so much for being a guest. It's great, the work that you do. I love it. I love the way you keep evolving and the way you've got your finger on the pulse. It's great. So thank you. I really appreciate it. We'll put that link in the show notes, and I wish you all the best. And well, let's talk in a year or maybe sooner, and hopefully things will have really escalated, and the stuff you're doing will be even more powerful and well known. So thank you. I very much appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you so much, Janey, for having me on the show. And I hope your listeners, if they do want to reach out, they can find me, as I said, on mbhtraining.com.
Thank you, Sophia. We'll make sure all of that information goes into the show notes, and I look forward to seeing what other magic you create in the future. Don't forget about those events that I mentioned, and if you want any support on your journey to well-being, then you know where to find me, imperfectlynatural.com or thesoberclub.com, and you'll find me on social media at Janey Lee Grace. You've been listening to the Natural Health and Sobriety Show on UK Health Radio.